Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 508. I start off with d4. My opponent chose to play the Marshall defense I go the Queen's Gambit, c4, and then he goes with the Marshall defense, which is knight f6. A pretty unpopular move and not particularly good. So I try to show how it's not good here. The way to kind of get the best game for white here is to first take the pawn. He takes, and then play knight to f3, and then later follow up knight to f3, cuts down on this move e5, which gives black a little bit of counterplay, and then later follow up with e5 and kicking this knight. You kick the knight before you develop your knight to c3, so this knight has nothing to do but retreat, and you gain a lot of space and a little bit of time, and leads to a good position. Now if we back up just a second, I was going to try and rehabilitate the Marshall defense myself, because I noticed in this position, after knight to f6, signaling the Marshall defense, and then c takes d5, the top choice of the chess engine, at least at first, is this move c6, turning it into a gambit. So I thought, well, that looks interesting. Maybe I'll try that gambit. Over time, the chess engine dislikes that gambit, so the evaluation rises a little bit in favor of white, but it still seems to be kind of a playable gambit. So, and it seems to be better than the main continuation here, which is to take the pawn, which is kind of funny. It's better to give up a pawn than to take it. So I was going to try and rehabilitate the Marshall defense myself at some point, but I haven't got a chance to play it yet, but that's what I'm going to do. Anyway, but as long as I have the white side and black is playing the main line, I'm going to try and refute the Marshall Gambit, or show the best way to play against it. So he played a rare move here. He played e6. So normally they continue with g6 or bishop f5. Bishop f5 is an interesting try to prevent white from playing the move e4, but you just bring the knight to d2 and then you get in e4 anyway, with the tempo this time since it's threatening a fork. So probably g6 is the main move there. So he played e6. I go on with e4, and that's the idea. This is not like a it's not like a Grinfeld. In the Grinfeld, you put these pawns here, but you have a knight there, and black takes the knight, brings this pawn towards the center, and then goes after the center. Here, black doesn't get any of that activity. He just has to drop his knight back. Although he does get to throw in this check, bishop to b4 check. So here we're right out of the opening book. Knight to d2 or bishop to d2 are both okay. I played bishop to d2. He took, and I took back with the queen. Okay, both moves are okay once again. And then he retreats back to f6. So you see, we've come out of the opening, and this is a much larger than usual opening advantage for white, and that's why the Marshall Gambit the Marshall defense to the Queen's Gambit declined is not considered a very good opening. Okay, but at some point black gets back in the game. So I played the opening well, but you have to play the whole game. And just because you have a bigger than normal advantage doesn't mean that you're winning. I mean, maybe a master can win with great play, but perfect play. But anyway, I go bishop d3. Still keeping the edge. At some point it dropped down, so I'm just kind of curious where I went wrong. Bishop to c2 is still one of these moves, keeping an advantage. I'm just trying to line up here with a typical battery, and then I can push this pawn forward, chase this knight away. So he goes knight to b4, harassing the bishop, and bishop to b3. Okay, so maybe this is where I go a little bit astray. Bishop to b3 keeps the strongest advantage. Yeah, this is a good diagonal for the bishop too. I can push the pawn forward, I can castle, bring my rooks to the center, and then push the pawn forward. Looks like that's kind of an interesting way to play. I certainly don't want to let him trade. So if I'm not going to go to b3, my second choice is to drop back to b1. And now he could try and undermine my center with this c5 move. Which he does. Okay, so this is how black gets close to, after this move, this is close to kind of a typical opening advantage, so I no longer have that strong advantage I had earlier, but still an opening edge. Okay, so I I took here, d takes c5. Yeah, I guess I don't have anything better. He takes the queens off, and knight takes d2. So, I've won a pawn, but it's not what you're playing for in most in most games, winning a pawn, this early on is not necessarily going to be such a great thing. A lot of ways for black to get the pawn back, and you see my advantage was stronger before that queen trade. Okay, so let's see. It's black's turn. He played e5, and I play a3, kicking the knight back. Knight drops back to c6. Okay, so black's play was not accurate. How can he get the best play? Yeah, b6. Going after this pawn that I put here right away. Or knight to a6, another way to go after that pawn. And that's best way for black to put up a fight. Okay, e5, I kick the knight, and I've got my big edge back. Knight to c6, I castle. Yeah, looks like castling was not necessary here. Bishop to a2. Bishop to a2, putting it on this diagonal again. Let's erase that arrow. Putting the bishop on this diagonal looks like an interesting idea. Yeah, there is a hole in his structure here on d5 here. So with the bishop here, I could sink a knight into that square, and my knight is defending the e-pawn. Okay, so castling is just a little bit slow in this position, and maybe not necessary with the queens off. Maybe I don't even have to castle. He goes knight to d4. And I go f3, shoring up my center. Okay, that's another move that gives up some of the advantage. Once again, yeah, it really likes this bishop a2 idea. I should get that bishop off the back rank. I wanted to start maneuvering my knights, so I shore up my center here. He goes knight to d7. I play b4, holding on to my pawn, keeping that edge. So once again, where did black go wrong? What was his best play? After I play f3, okay, well, it was just a temporary evaluation, but it looks like bishop e6 or rook d8 are the best ways. Yeah, bishop e6. So it looks like there's a fight going on in the eye of the chess engine. Anyway, it looks like there's a fight going on for this diagonal, and it thinks that whoever gets onto that diagonal first has gained a little something. Interesting. So maybe that's one of the points of bishop to a2, is it keeps his bishop off of that good square. Also, just developing his rook makes sense. Taking a look indirectly at my loose pawn here. So loose knight on d2. So those are ways, once again, for black to try and get back into the game. White kept an edge all through this, so I guess I can't be too unhappy with my play. Anyway, he played knight d7, and I just defend my pawn. I'm not going to give it back without a fight. And he went a5, trying to undermine. And I go bishop to d3, which chess engine approves. So my advantage has been growing with these last few moves, although I do have to worry about, there's a lineup of pieces here on the on the d file, but he still has a couple of moves to make before he can expose an attack on them. Let's see, knight to d5 looks like a good move here. Yeah, just clogging up the center and protecting these pieces on the d file looks like a good idea. Also, knight to c4 looks like a good move, getting one knight off of this d file, making it easier for me to evacuate. I played rook f to d1, bringing a rook here. Yeah, it's still good. Okay. f6, showing up his position. I go knight to b5. Looking at this square here. Okay, he takes. Cancel that. Where did he take? Oh, he played knight takes b5. He traded the knights first. Take back. And then he went knight to f8. I guess he's going to maneuver this knight around. So keeping a good advantage. I go knight c4 here. Okay, the engine likes this. There's a trade of rooks. So I played 23 moves here, and let's see, I guess I'll stay in good shape for a couple more moves, but it's interesting, my advantage just by playing fairly natural moves has grown to quite a strong edge here. And at this point, this is a winning edge without too much trouble. A value of +3 there is pretty strong indication that white is just winning. So it's kind of embarrassing what happened. He goes bishop e6, hitting my knight. And knight to d6. Okay, still keeping a +2 edge. Still a winning edge here. He goes rook to a2, invading. Yeah, so was there something better here? Okay, right here I should play knight takes b7. But already, black seems to be getting a little bit of counterplay in this. I messed this part up. Knight takes b7 is a top choice. Played bishop to c4. I thought provoking some trades. So this move to provoke trades was not a good idea. Ah, you know what it does? I didn't recognize this during the game, but the reason that bishop c4 is not a good idea is because I end up taking his bishop and bringing his knight into the game. Right now his knight is out of play. So best move for me here is, first of all, just grabbing that free pawn. That would be good. Secondly, I could try bishop back to f1. Not a move I would have thought of, but it defends this pawn over here against attacks from his bishop and rook, which might coordinate. Bishop to e8, going forward with the bishop. These are chess engine ideas. Or grabbing the pawn. Grabbing the pawn makes the most sense. Then I have these passed pawns. Connected passed pawns were really a force in the endgame. Okay, so this trade is not helping. He takes, I take, and then rook to a4 or c2, going after my loose pieces here, but he brings his knight in, knight to e6. So I have my edge has dropped to +1, but still, this is still probably a winning advantage in the endgame. Looks like I'm going to get a passed pawn over here, and I just have to be a little bit careful not to fall into any tricks. So I guess I can be satisfied with my play 90% of the way through the game. Let's see. I played the move rook to b1. Just trying to hold on to these pawns. Yeah, so that's my second move where it really drops down. Rook to d7. Going after the b pawn again and keeping his king confined. That's the way to play this endgame. Keep your rooks active, and also I guess there's no easy way for me to activate my king here. That's not true. My king can get activated by pushing the h-pawn and walking my king up this way. So my king is not trapped back here on the back rank. Yeah, so activating my rook. I was worried about these pawns here, but he can't so easily attack them. So, for example, rook d7. He can't attack the pawn from this side because the knight is covering it. And if he brings his brick here, then I can just take the pawn and protect it that way. So in this position after rook d7, his best try is to just try and get his knight into the game, knight to f4. And I can kick it with g3. Or I can take the pawn. Still, he is getting some activity here. Anyway, rook to b1, defending the pawn, keeping some edge. He goes knight to f4, bringing his knight in and coordinating on the g2 square. And now the winning idea here is b5. Just push these pawns forward. Instead, I played rook b2, and as I was calculating this, I realized that this was a mistake, but somehow I was talking while I was moving, and I completed the move, rook to b2. And of course, there's a nice little winning tactic for black here, which he played. It's just the combination of the check here, forcing the king up, and then there's a fork here, knight here with a fork, forking the rook and the king. And he spotted it and played it almost instantly. And I resigned here. I could have played on because it's just an exchange, and I have a pawn for the exchange. But his rook is going to be very active here, and I really don't have much chance of holding it. Plus, I was just disgusted at having played well 90% of the game and losing it in the last 10%. Always annoying. Anyway, so that's how the game ended. I just resigned at this point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon. Bye.